NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba, who's got some fresh reporting for us. Monica, what do you have?
Well, Katie, I think it's just so notable in everything you've just been discussing there when we talk about the factors that went into this decision for President Biden. We have to remember he's isolated in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware with COVID, and that's where he has been these last couple of days, having some of these difficult discussions, I'm told. But ultimately, even last night with some of his closest aides, with members of his inner circle, he had told them privately, I understand, that he was full speed ahead, that he wanted to continue with this campaign. Even this morning, some key White House and Biden re-election effort surrogates were on the airwaves saying this isn't a discussion about President Biden making a future decision. They had said he had made his decision and it was to stay in the race. And some of those people didn't even find out about the president changing his mind until just moments before it went out formally on his own account on social media. That's how closely this was held. But Katie, I think it's really important to remind our viewers of who was around the president when this was happening these last couple of days, and that's his real close and immediate family. And in large part, that is because of his COVID diagnosis, but also because we knew, and we had reported, NBC News knew these conversations were happening a couple of days ago, that there was this awareness and acceptance of a more reality-based conversation that needed to take place about if the president were to leave the race, what it would look like. And the people closest to him, his family, we reported, were really talking about this in the context of wanting to make sure that if this happened, it would be befitting of a public servant who had been in elected office for more than 5 decades. And that was a really important part of this story. Once we knew that that was happening, there was an acknowledgement from within the people who know the president the best that this was a more than likely possibility. It wasn't talked about as any kind of a foregone conclusion, but the fact that those conversations were even happening, I think tells you a lot, and it tells you a lot about these last couple of days. And we know he has been with the First Lady, who, by the way, is supposed to be going to the Paris Olympics to be at the opening ceremony in the coming days, heading there. So that is something to think about when we're now talking about where President Biden will give a larger speech, laying out this thinking and giving this formal notice of this decision to the American people. And we believe that that will be a speech in the coming days, as he hinted at in his letter. But they want to make sure, again, that so much of this was going to be calculated, according to the people that I've talked to and just spoken with, on his own timeline. And there were many around him who were very close to him who still believed that there was more time to that timeline. They felt like they had maybe bought some time with some of these forceful statements. With this decision to be back on the campaign trail, he had said just in a statement on Friday, he had pledged to be back talking about Project 2025, to be talking about former President Trump. And now here we are 48 hours later with this very, very significant decision. And